Hello and welcome to this episode of New Leaf Coaching. Today I'm going to be talking about old tools. So as you can see here behind me, I hope you can see that clear enough, this is a field that I scythed by hand yesterday. And I have my trusty hatchet. And we're going to go cut down some trees, some little trees, to make some tool handles. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I was able to find this tree that was already cut down, so I don't actually have to cut one down, but I'm just going to cut it out. But just to make a quick disclaimer, I'm not like coming out here and cutting down trees and being bad for the environment, destroying forest. What we are doing is sustainably harvesting trees to enhance the forest and to replace fossil fuels. So it's actually a good thing for the forest, for us, and for the environment. So this here is the stick that I'll be cutting today. I'll just cut through it, shouldn't take too long. I'm gonna cut this second time, about right here. And there we have it. This is a hoe handle. If you're thinking that looks like an odd hoe handle, you're right. But I've got an odd hoe to go with the odd handle. Hey, here I am in the woods. I just wanted to say something quick. I am leaving Wisconsin and getting out of animal agriculture, but when I get to Ohio, I'm still going to be doing permaculture gardening and foraging for my own food, and hopefully growing most of my own food too. So I'm not leaving behind agriculture as in growing food, I'm leaving behind animal agriculture as in growing animals for people to eat. So I just thought I'd throw that quick disclaimer in here. So I've got the end of this carved down so that the head slides on. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to split this wood with my chisel. And the back of my trusty hatchet. Now, one thing to note, when you're making tool handles with green wood, they are going to dry down. And so that's something that you have to be careful with. Now the next thing I'm going to do is try to cut a wedge off of this block of wood. Okay, so this is our wedge. I'm just going to trim it up a bit with my knife. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave the hoe head on that far. I'm going to get it approximately the way I want it for my handle. And then I'm going to pound this wedge in as far as I can. Well, I didn't realize that my camera was pointing so low in some of the other ones, so you guys didn't get to see some of me putting this hoe head together. So just to show you guys what it looks like, that's what it is. That's the piece of wood that I split there with the chisel, and then the wedge that I pounded in. I pounded the wedge right into there to make this head tight on there. So that's what that was. So this hoe head I actually acquired on my trip to Haiti in 2018. So it's been 3 years ago now. And we've used it some, not as much as I wish I would have, but we have used it some for tilling the garden and making rows and planting stuff. So this hoe head, yeah, I picked up on my trip to Haiti when I was working at an orphanage there. We were building a road, rebuilding a road, putting in a ditch. And so that's a little bit of the history of this hoe head. Here's my hoe, all put together. It's got a little wedge in there. And as it dries, we'll have to pound that wedge in further. And then once I got it right, I'll cut the end off. So I thought I'd just show you a little bit of what these things can do. They can move an impressive amount of dirt in a hurry. Some people see the scythe as an outdated tool, but I'm here to show you that these scythes are just as good today as they ever were if you know how to use them right. And for small acreages, they can be perfectly good. Well, that was a workout. But workouts are good, right? So, as you can see, the field got leveled off pretty nice. Now all this stuff's ready to put into a compost pile or use for mulch or whatever you want to do with cut down plant material. So, scythes are a really great tool for cutting down weeds or small areas of grass or small grain. This scythe we've had for 20 years, I think, at least. Yeah, probably 20 years. And it's cut down many acres of weeds and even a few acres of hay. So, it's a good tool, well worth the investment. So, these here are my old tools, and I wouldn't do without them. We get my post hole digger there. We got my hoe, actually two hoes, a big chopping hoe and a little weeding hoe. And then we have a rake that I mostly use for hay or for raking up loose stuff or raking soft dirt. Then I have my pitchfork there, also mostly used for hay. And Then I have an axe, mostly used in felling trees, a scythe for cutting down grass and weeds and crops, and then a saw for cutting wood, and then my trusty little hatchet. I firmly believe that if we put as much focus and glory on these simple hand tools here and the use of them as we did on professional sports, we would be able to do almost all of our farming without using any fossil fuel at all. So let's not lose the value that we have in old tools, and let's pursue talent and learning how to use these tools to maximize their efficiency. So as we conclude this episode of Old Tools, I just want to say that this won't be the last you see of my old tools, I hope. I plan on making more videos on how to use each specific tool and techniques and skills and the proper times and places to use them. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope it has encouraged you to not always bring out the diesel power, but to do a little bit more by hand so that we all do what we can.